Hey guys, it's Chef Andrea with A Chef's Cooking Studio, and it's Cookbook Corner, and today we are doing a cookbook that is so cool. A chef that's really interesting restaurant story, really interesting life story, and on top of talking about this amazing cookbook, I'm going to talk a little bit about Parmesan Rind, how to shop for it, how to buy it, what you're looking for, what you want to avoid. So that's all super exciting. Join me. It's Cookbook Corner. Okay guys, welcome back to Cookbook Corner. Today we're talking about the cookbook Prune by Gabrielle Hamilton. So let's start by looking at the book. Prune by Gabrielle Hamilton. This book is a cookbook. It is a collection of recipes by the chef, Gabrielle Hamilton, who also is owner-operator of the restaurant by the same name, which is Prune in New York City. We got to talk about a few things as we get into this amazing cookbook. It's a cool book. This has got a ton of recipes for you. I want to tell you a few things about Gabrielle Hamilton. I actually came to know who Gabrielle Hamilton was through her other really interesting book, which is Blood, Bones, and Butter, which is really just her story. This starts in childhood and covers how she got to be who she is. It is quite a journey, a very interesting memoir. And my book club actually read this. I think this was the second book that my book club ever read. And in part because lovely, wonderful, dear friend Joan, who is part of our book club, actually knows Gabrielle Hamilton and was just really excited that this book had been published and wanted us to definitely check it out. So this is how I came to know who Gabrielle Hamilton was. I have to admit, you guys, I'm kind of in the dark down here. You know, I try to keep up with what's happening in the world of like super hot food and great restaurants, but it's tough. I do live in a little bit of a bubble. So Gabrielle Hamilton was introduced to me through this story, and Blood, Bones, and Butter. I highly recommend it. Grab a copy of it, grab an Audible of it, and just listen to it while you're cooking. What a really interesting story. And I guess I just, kind of fell in love with her right from here. So as soon as we finished reading this, I immediately started doing some research and discovered that at the time that we finished this, Prune was already out. The cookbook was already available. And so grabbed this immediately. And boy, through the recipes in this book, I feel like I started to really come to understand, and I guess in part because of reading the memoir as well, her point of view as a chef and as a restaurant owner is really distinct. And what I will say is that if you are a home cook watching me, there is amazing information in this book for you. There are tips and pointers that are going to help your home cooking. There's no question about it. If you are at all involved in this industry or considering being a part of this industry, then I highly recommend this book. Essentially, I consider it a textbook for you. But I really recommend you read her story. And then one other piece of writing by Gabrielle Hamilton that I want to mention, and then we'll dive into the cookbook, is an op-ed that she did. Is that the term? I don't know if that's even the term. Anyway, an article that she did for the New York Times during the lockdown in this country. And if you just Google New York Times, Gabrielle Hamilton, several things will probably pop up, but look for her most recent article about what that lockdown presented for her as a restaurant owner in New York City, what some choices were she was going to have to make about that. And I feel like that particular article, if you've ever wanted to know a little bit about what it is to be a food service operator, there's a big fancy term, to run a restaurant, I feel like that article was the most open, honest, mildly devastating, and absolutely factual account of the incredibly narrow profit margin that most restaurants operate under, the day-to-day decisions that are made that might be solely based on customer requests versus bottom line or profits in any way. It was heart-wrenching to read, and it was empowering to read. As a professional cook, I can tell you that there was a lot of, wow, I'm not alone in how I feel about the good and the bad of this field. It's an incredibly powerful piece. So I highly recommend that you look that up as well. I feel like one thing about Gabrielle Hamilton that I've noticed in her book, in her article, and in her cookbook is, let me tell you something, she lays it out there. I feel like you get absolutely 100% her in everything that she presents to you. There's, this is not an image that she's creating or a mask that she hides behind. I just feel like she is so absolutely honest and open. So let's talk about the cookbook. This is a really interesting cookbook. I will say that if you are a collector, 100%, I want you to add this to your collection because the presentation of it and the way that it's put together, I think is just so interesting and engaging. It's very different than many that I've seen. And essentially what you get within this cookbook are it's almost like photocopied pages of her manual on how to run her restaurant, what her core mise en place looks like day to day, what her specials are, etc. So let's get into the meat of it. We'll start with a photo. This photo on the inside jacket. So this is the restaurant space itself. And I'm assuming this is Gabrielle Hamilton down here. This is interesting to me because when you read about how she got this restaurant up and going, this space will become sort of personal to you. And then really pretty photo just of the restaurant space itself. Cooks on the line, servers. I just love that image. So let's talk about the contents that are in here. There's quite a few. Bar snacks, small plates, mains, dinner mains, vegetable sides that are dinner mains as well. They are large enough for that. Desserts. Then she has her lunch menu, her lunch desserts, her brunch. Then there is the prep daily, weekly. Okay, bear with me here. Prep daily, weekly. There's a cocktail section in here. Garbage and family meal. Okay, if you have taken a Home Chef series with me, you know that week 1 is knife skills. And what I preach to you throughout knife skills is that class is the beginning of you finding kitchen gold through scraps. Next week of Home Chef series is stocks and broths. And in our stocks and broths class, I drive home that stock making should be free and it is a byproduct of good knife skills. So garbage, this is exactly what she's getting at here. But she also, wait till you see the way that she uses up every scrap in that kitchen. Again, it goes back to that profit margin being so minor and so minute. But what an interesting chapter. Are you kidding? So let's take a look at a few of the pages that I've flagged out here for you so we can see what's happening. Okay, first of all, cookbooks with photographs. As I've said, I'm okay with a cookbook that doesn't have photographs. Sometimes the book is just so technique oriented that it really isn't necessary. We're really looking at formulas. Sometimes the book is just so much about the writing, like the Pat Conroy cookbook. It doesn't have any photographs, but it's almost a novel. There's so much writing in it. So I'm okay with the no photos. But when there are beautiful photos, it is kind of nice, isn't it? So here's a 2-page spread of just some beautiful artwork. Look at those chickens all seasoned up. Isn't that gorgeous? Absolutely beautiful. Let's look at another page I flagged for you. Oh, you know what? This is just another beautiful example of some just amazing photography. I don't want to get the recipe in there. So just a really beautiful bowl of pho. Oh, this low country boil looks amazing. Okay. Here is another pretty one, and I want to show you two things about these 2 pages. So these are these mixed carrots with honeycomb. The light will catch it in a minute. There you go. Look at that beautiful glazed carrot with that piece of honeycomb on top. Isn't that gorgeous? Now look over here. See this? Those aren't my stains. And see these holes in the page? They're not there. Okay? This is what I was telling you about this book. It's almost like these are like photocopies out of her own kitchen manual that she uses at Prune. This is what I'm talking about Gabrielle Hamilton. Do you know how intimate that is? To share that with us, to put that out there on the line like that, with her handwritten notes to her staff and to herself. The thing about Gabrielle Hamilton is that she's 100% authentic. She holds nothing back. I just think that's a trait that we don't see a lot of day to day in our lives sometimes, and I just really admire that about her. I wanted to show you guys this one. If you've done Cookbook Corner with me before, you know that with Carol Walters' great cookies, I was doubling and tripling them so often that I finally just put my math alongside of the recipes. You know, I highly encourage that you write on your recipes, especially if it's something that you're just doing again and again. So here's what Gabrielle Hamilton did with hers. If you look here, because again, this is a photocopy from her, like her working manual, but here's her times 16 and here's her times 8. So she's going to do this recipe and multiply it multiple times. She just did the math once. Now, see this blue painter's tape? Commercial kitchens, we live with this stuff. It's on this is how I label everything that goes into the fridge and date it, and it doesn't stick to things. I can pull it back off, and you can see that that's pretty much clearly exactly what she wrote her notes on, with some form of like painter's tape, and stuck it to the page. Pretty cool. Let's talk some recipes here, and then we're going to talk about Parmesan Reggiano. Okay, so this chapter, prep, daily, weekly. Look at this. This is her daily, weekly prep list for her kitchen. This is why I say, if you are thinking about opening up a food service, boy, oh boy, do I recommend you take a peek at this, because she's got this figured out. And it's overwhelming to me. For somebody who runs such a tiny operation, when I see things like that, it's just overwhelming to me. I will mention to you briefly that she has a section in here on cocktails, and I don't drink, so I have never really messed with that section at all, except to say that often if you look at a good quality cookbook that includes information from their bar, they'll include pretty cool things like a ginger syrup. Now that I can make and make a mocktail out of that. You know, I can do something really fun with that myself. So it's not to say that the section's not usable, but I just haven't done much out of it. Look at that beautiful image. Isn't that pretty? I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Glistening glasses. Okay, now I want to get into some good stuff back here. So this photograph falls into the category of garbage. So you see what's down here where my finger's touching? Those are the bottoms of leeks. Over here, do you see these? That's the top of the zucchini, right? So these are fish scraps. You getting the idea? So sort of some of the stuff that we might have considered garbage. These are mise en place stations that she has set up so that she and her staff can utilize those products. Garbage. Parmesan rinds is number 1. Number 2 is Parmesan rind broth. I'm going to tell you about that. Zucchini tops, shard stems, day-old breads. You getting the idea of what garbage is here? Hollow bones, shrimp shells. This is really usable garbage if you know what to do with it. And boy, does Gabrielle Hamilton show you what to do with it. If the idea of cutting back your footprint and waste is of appeal to you, if you bought this book and just did a deep dive into this section, it would be worth every penny and worth every minute. I think it is such a beautifully constructed bit of information, and just the concept behind it is so lovely. So I'm going to read to you Parmesan rinds, okay? Our Parm bill is about $1,000 a month, which is why I get so cranky when I see you using it carelessly in family meals. Please, ours is the real expensive deal. Ease up on the Parm. Please don't throw away the many hard as wood rinds that we generate. When we have a good clutter of rinds accumulating in the walk-in, pull them out and cover them with water in a soup pot. Bring to simmer for an hour or so until you have a rich and distinctly parmy broth. Big beads of milky fat will rise to the surface and signal the richness. You can then chew on the soft rinds if you like, or just toss them. Strain the broth and freeze it. It's excellent for cooking rice, beans with green herbs when we run them, or for poaching the gnocchi with prune butter on Valentine's Day. For the average weekday workday use, we, what does she say here? I don't know what that is. We run it as an addition at lunch. Even in warm months, this use is fine. I love a hot soup in summer. I want to tell you that the first recipe I did out of this book was parm broth. We had a bunch of Parmesan rinds in our freezer, and I thought, okay. I've used them. I always use parm rinds in sauces and things like that. Marinara sauce, I throw a parm rind in. It brings some extra background flavor to it. It actually serves as a little bit of a thickener. If something's gone a little too thin, I can thicken it up with a parm rind. So we made her parm broth, and it was so delicious that we ended up running a special for a chef table dinner here back when we used to serve as chef tables. And the chef table dinner, it was a second course, and it was a parm broth with one handmade large tortellini in the center of the parm broth. We did it one time for a 7 fishes as well, where I think we did a ricotta and egg ravioli, a Big Daddy, and poached him and then served him in the parm broth. But I remember doing the tortellini and parm broth as a second course a few times, and it was absolutely delicious. So she's got a recipe here for zucchini tops, literally a recipe for them, not just a garbage use for them. You're going to serve them. Those zucchini tops that we always, you just chop off and throw away. No, hang on to those. Side note for my Home Chef series, folks, I love zucchini parts in my veg stock. I feel like it brings a sweetness to it. And, veg stock sometimes can go a little bitter. If I put some zucchini in, it seems to pull that bitterness back a little bit. So there's a little nugget for you. Prune, the Cookbook by Gabrielle Hamilton. This is a treasure and a treasury. It is full of amazing recipes. I love her honest approach with her crew. There's notes to them in here. She just shares everything. I just think it's incredible. So some really incredible recipes. Prune, I hope you check it out. Gabrielle Hamilton, Blood, Bones, and Butter. Really nice book. Great read. Get your book club to go in on it. And now I want to talk about Parmesan real quick. So how is it that I'm making Parmesan broth from this book? You got to have Parmesan rinds. In order to have Parmesan rinds, you have to be buying whole Parmesan Reggiano. So first, let's talk about what not to buy, and then I'll give you some hints on what to buy. I did some shopping this morning before I came up here. Okay. Do you know it took me a little while to find this product because I don't even know where they keep it? This is not Parmesan Reggiano. I'm sorry. You know what? If this company wants to come at me, let's go. Let's have it out. I don't know what's in this tube, but what I do know is that powdered product, I don't know what that is. Do I believe that they took a milk culture and curdled it and salted it and then went through some monster freeze dry process and grated it into powder and then added potassium sorbate and cellulose powder? Yes, I do believe that. If you're telling me that that is what Parm is, well, then that's what this is. Let me tell you what Parmesan Reggiano is. Parmesan Reggiano is a cow's milk cheese that is produced in the Parma region of Italy. That's the end of it. Here's some grocery store versions. This is a grocery store a chain that we have down here. They didn't have their name on it. I thought they did. This is Publix Parmesan Reggiano. But I want to show you something here. You see that rind? That is important. Can you see through the saran wrap? The rind on that one? You can see it says Ridge. So you know it said Parmesan Reggiano around it. It was stamped in. Here's another product from the grocery store that is not Parmesan Reggiano. I'm sorry. Come at me, company. Come talk to me about it. This one tells you that it is a product of Wisconsin. It was made in Wisconsin and pre-shredded. Okay, first and foremost, why are we not buying pre-grated cheeses? Let's just go with that first. One, don't buy pre-grated cheeses because, short story is, what is it? I mean, if you can't see it in its whole form, maybe I just don't trust it. Okay, let's say you do trust it. It says it's Parm Chef. I believe them, and I don't have time to grate it. Here's the problem with pre-grated cheese. Forget the fact that you don't know what it is. It's going to go bad very, very quickly. See, the thing that starts to build up mildew is exposure. And so if I have a wedge of cheese, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 exposed edges. Every single shred of this has 5 exposed edges. So there are 5 trillion exposed edges in this tub. And so it's going to start to go bad very quickly. And the real problem is that when this starts to turn either pink or green, pink and green are great colors if you are, designing a scarf or a handbag. Pink and green are not good colors for food, generally speaking, when they're growing on things. So pink and green, when this starts to go pink or green inside, the whole tub has to go. But if this starts to show some signs of a little buildup somewhere, I can just shave it off. That's right. I can just trim it off and move on. So let's forget about whether it's real or fake. The reason you don't want to buy pre-graded is simply because the shelf stability of it is 0. It's just going to go bad on you very, very quickly. Okay, let's talk about Parmesan Reggiano. Cow's milk cheese, name controlled. What that means, I'm giving you super simple terms here, okay? So if you want to go and do a deep dive cheese class, somebody out here on the internet's got one for you. This is an overview. Parmesan Reggiano, name controlled cheese. What that means is that to call yourself true Parmesan Reggiano, you must not only be a product of Italy, but a product of Italy that is produced entirely in the Parma region. And so your cows have to be in that region, so that's where your dairy is. They have to be consuming agriculture specifically from that region, right? And the cheeses are produced and aged there. Parmesan Reggiano. There is another cheese that you'll find often, and I even found a wedge today at Publix, which is Grana Padano. So also has that sort of stamped look to it on the rind and does have a full attached rind. Grana Padano, here's the short idea behind this. I am just outside of the Parma region, but my cows are the same species of cow, and they're eating the same agriculture, which means that their milk content is the same richness and the same flavor. But if I make a cheese, a hard aged, firm rind cheese, just outside of that Parma region, I can't call it Parmesan Reggiano. So I might call it Grana Padano. The thing about Grana Padano is that often what happens with Parmesan Reggiano is the best quality that is produced is consumed in Italy. It's really not produced for export. And Grana Padano can be on par with quality-wise, but is far more likely to be exported out. And what you're getting exported in the world of Grana Padano are better quality sometimes than what you're getting exported in the world of Parmesan Reggiano. So just something to think about. I use them interchangeably as long as they have a rind on them, and that rind has that sort of embossed or stamped edge to it. I know that I'm getting at least something awfully close to what it claims to be. This, I got no info on. And it says it's made in Wisconsin, so we already know right there. Nothing against Wisconsin cheeses, guys. Love. But if you're looking for true Parmesan Reggiano, this guy I found in a tube. He was on the marinara sauce aisle at my grocery store. And I mean, he's salty, I guess. But here's the thing about buying real Parm too. Then you're going to end up with these rinds. So you can cut this rind off. Listen, this Parmesan Reggiano, I just grate it over with a microplane grater over my pasta right before it goes out. Sometimes I use a vegetable peeler and shave curls of it onto something right before they go out. This wedge will last you. You're going to just use increment little bits of this. This stuff will be on the very first pasta dish that you make. Your Parmesan rinds, I keep mine in the freezer. I just have a Ziploc bag of just kind of ongoing. I just kind of keep piling on them, and then I pull them out when I need them. And then I will mention that Costco, if you have a Costco near you, the Kirkland brand, for a long time, the Kirkland brand seemed to me to be Grana Padano, which made good sense. If I'm a big box store that's trying to bring in a good quality export, I might partner in with a farm next to a Parma farm and get a better price on that product. But the last few times I've been there, the Kirkland cheese is labeled as Parmigiano Reggiano and product of Italy. I'm not sure when that change took place or how they finagled that. My guess is that they've got a contract going with a Parm producer there, but their Parm is nice as well. You know, the truth is that when we get these cheeses imported to us, they end up on refrigerated vessels. And so they're chilled down to 32 degrees for their entire transport. So when they come here to America, we have to then keep them chilled as well. But truly, a true Parmigiano Reggiano from Italy should be a very shelf-stable cheese that is served just room temperature. When I do put this on like a charcuterie board or something like that, I will put this whole wedge out and then put a little Parm fork in it. It's a little 3-pronged fork with like a wooden handle, and just chunk off some pieces to get people started and put a little pot of honey right next to it. That's delicious. That's never going to happen with a pile of these shreds or a pile of this powder, right? It's salt, I guess, basically is what it is. So there's a brief overview of Parmigiano Reggiano for you. And Prune, Gabrielle Hamilton, and do check out that article in the New York Times. I think it's a really good one. So Cookbook Corner this week. Listen, it is actually really turning into fall here, and she has so many beautiful broths and soups in this cookbook. This time of year, I tend to pull this cookbook out and start to do some of her beautiful things, including a nice Parm broth. So I hope you'll give it a try. Thanks for joining me on Cookbook Corner. We are loving your comments and your feedback. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us, and we will catch you next time. Look forward to it. Have a delicious day.